I have to say,
Yeah.
I am just completely incensed by what we saw unfold this past Saturday, April 19th, across the entire country.
Yeah.
The level of sheer anger, frustration, just pouring onto the streets, it was impossible to miss.
Absolutely.
And we're not just talking a few isolated incidents here. This felt like a genuine coast-to-coast wave of protest aimed right at the administration.
They really did.
Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive Report Show. We're here to really dig into what's going on behind the headlines.
With Mike and Sam.
And today, well, we have to dissect this nationwide explosion of demonstrations. We'll be pulling from news reports, eyewitness accounts, trying to get to the heart of what's fueling all this.
Right, cutting through the noise, so to speak.
Exactly. If you feel overwhelmed by the constant cycle, but really want to understand the core issues driving this public anger, well, stick with us.
It was quite something, wasn't it? The sheer breadth of it. What struck me immediately was just how geographically diverse it all was.
Yeah, everywhere.
You had Colorado Springs, New York City, obviously Concord, Massachusetts, quite significant there. Then D.C., right on the White House lawn. Out west in San Francisco, Ocean Beach.
Even Alaska.
Even Anchorage, Alaska. And down south in Miami, plus Denver, at the state capitol, it wasn't just one region complaining. This felt unified, national.
Totally unified. And when you zero in on where people were gathering, the key themes, the driving forces behind the anger, they really start to stand out, don't they?
They really do.
Like, take New York City. Reports focused heavily on marches against deportation policies, against ICE.
Right.
You had that chant, no fear, no hate, no ICE in our state.
Yeah.
That's raw. That's visceral.
It really is. It speaks volumes about the fear, doesn't it? Families potentially being separated, communities just living with that constant anxiety.
And the intensity of that chant.
Yeah.
It's such a direct challenge to the administration's whole approach on immigration.
It really is. It suggests a profound rejection of the human cost involved. It makes you question that balance, national security versus the rights and just the basic well-being of these communities.
And that question of fundamental rights, that was huge in D.C. too, right outside the White House.
Definitely.
People were sounding the alarm about threats to due process, even talk about gutting Social Security.
Yeah, I saw reports on that.
We actually have a quote here from Bob Fasek, 76 years old. He was there. He said, "This isn't the kind of future I want to leave for younger generations."
Wow.
Think about that. A sense of betraying the future is driving people into the streets.
That really hits home, doesn't it? Fesek's words capture that sense of intergenerational responsibility, and his specific points, due process, Social Security, they highlight this deep fear that the basic promises of society are maybe crumbling.
Yeah, that the foundations are shaky.
Exactly. Anxiety about fairness, stability, core institutions.
Then you shift coast to San Francisco. The visuals there were just
organized
incredible.
by grassroots group
etching, impeach, and
5051.
remove
On Saturday,
sand at Ocean
hundreds
Beach.
gathered in New
And
Hampshire's
that
capital
symbol,
city to protest the
upside
Trump
down American
administration
flag.
and its
Can't miss that.
policies.
You really can't. It's not just a casual gesture, is it? It's a
The
recognized
No
signal.
Kings
Extreme
protest,
distress.
just one of
nation
hundreds of
in
demonstrations
crisis.
happening all
It's
across the
deliberate.
country this weekend.
powerful.
Organizers
And using
in
a symbol
Concord
like
say
that, one
they're
that's
coming
so
together
widely
in the name of
understood,
democracy.
it just underlines
We
how
aren't
deep the
trying to
disillusionment
hurt
must
anyone.
run
We
for those
just want our rights.
protesters.
Right.
It
One
suggests
person
they see
tells
this as
News
more
9
than
they
just,
were there
typical
because they
political
want to
disagreement.
protect
It's like a
Social
fundamental
Security.
threat.
Just
And the
days
impeach and
after
remove
new
part leaves
anti-fraud
zero
measures
doubt
took
about what
effect
they want to see
that have
happen.
some
No ambiguity
arguing
there,
now
but the one that really
it's
got me,
harder for
maybe
people
because
to
of the
access their
location,
payments.
was Concord,
I want to
Massachusetts.
protect my dad,
Ah,
my
yes,
disabled
the
dad's
Revolutionary War site.
Social
Exactly,
Security.
to have protest at a
Because if we didn't have
commemoration
it,
like
we'd
that.
go-
Yeah.
probably
You had an
go
80-year-old, Thomas
all
Basford, saying
And
Americans
others
are
were there
under
to
attack
protest
from their own
President Trump's
governments.
recent
Strong
moves
words.
on
And
tariffs,
George Bryant
federal
talking about a
cuts,
police
and
state
spending
and
freezes.
fascism.
People are afraid
That is
of
loaded
losing their
language.
health, their
It speaks to
housing,
this
they're afraid of
profound
losing their
fear
medication.
that the very
They're
principles the
being
country was
forced into
supposedly
nursing
founded on
homes.
liberty,
Nursing homes
self-governance,
don't have
are
enough
being
staff.
actively
And I did
eroded.
ask some
The
of the
choice
people
of
here what
Concord
their
is
top
so
concerns are
symbolic,
right
isn't
now
it? It adds
when
this
it
whole
comes to
historical
President
layer.
Trump
They're
and his
essentially drawing a
administration.
parallel,
They
saying
are kidnapping
this fight
people
now
and
is like
sending
the
them to
fight
another
then
country
against tyranny.
without due process.
Bastard
Doge
calling
firing
to
a whole
fight
lot
back.
of federal employees,
It
stop
echoes the
oil
revolutionaries.
drilling and that sort of
And
stuff.
Bryant's
And News 9
accusations,
has reached
whether you
out to
agree or not,
members
they
of the New
reflect
Hampshire
a really
GOP
deep-seated
and a
fear
spokesperson
of
for the New Hampshire
authoritarianism.
House of
And it
Representatives
wasn't just these big
for
symbolic
comments on
spots.
today's
The
protests.
report from
We are waiting
Anchorage,
to hear back.
Alaska,
In Concord, Imani
just
Fleming,
floored me.
WMUR
There was this
News
photo
9.
of a handmade sign.
Oh, yeah.
what's going
What did it
on
say?
in the
Said,
government,
"No sign is
locally,
big enough to
federally,
list
doesn't really
all of the
matter.
reasons I'm
There's
here."
a lot of
Wow.
changes happening, and change
Just think about
is
the weight
scary.
of that. It points to this huge, complex wave of discontent. It's not just one or two things, it's systemic dissatisfaction.
That says so much. The sheer volume of grievances it implies, it suggests this widespread loss of trust across so many different areas. It's beyond policy specifics. It's a feeling of maybe governmental overreach.
And then, to top it off, there was a colonial reenactor there too, holding a no king sign.
No kidding. Full circle, almost.
Right. That same core message, resisting unchecked power, echoing from the 18th century all the way to Alaska in 2025.
That no king sign really reinforces that underlying theme about executive power, doesn't it? Wanting to keep democratic accountability.
We saw similar things down in Miami too. Alberto Rosales holding the flag upside down, explicitly calling it a symbol of crisis.
Same symbol, same message as San Francisco.
Exactly. And the chants against the administration, the mix of people, someone called Mistress May was mentioned. It just shows this broad, varied group united by this feeling of, urgent opposition.
Miami adds to that picture, yeah. A diverse, widespread resistance. Rosales using symbol of crisis again. It really suggests this shared feeling across the country that we're at some kind of critical point.
And the fact that you have people from all sorts of backgrounds involved shows these concerns are hitting home across different communities.
Creating a potentially quite powerful front.
And then Denver, the rally at the state capitol there, the focus on solidarity with immigrants, that direct message, hands off.
Right, connecting back to New York.
It really highlights how central the administration's immigration policies still are, still sparking outrage, calls for humane treatment all over the country.
And the Denver rally shows it's not just immigrant communities themselves protesting, it's broader. A sense of moral outrage, maybe, standing in solidarity. That hands-off message is blunt. It's a clear demand for change.
Beyond these specific places and issues, though, the organizers behind all this, they've talked about wider concerns too, like fundamental civil rights, constitutional violations.
Right, the bigger picture.
To use the phrase inhumane deportation machine, that's a heavy indictment.
It really is.
And also concern about firing public servants, raising questions about, the independence and integrity of government itself.
That broader framework is key, focusing on civil rights, the Constitution. It suggests the belief that the administration's actions aren't just bad policy, but maybe fundamentally illegitimate. That inhumane deportation machine links straight back to the fears in New York, while worrying about firing public servants points to, maybe an erosion of expertise, of independence within the government.
We also need to touch on New Jersey, Marshall Green there, sharply criticizing the use of the Alien Enemies Act.
Yes, for the Venezuelan deportations.
Right. His call for due process, demanding Congress assert that the U.S. isn't actually at war. That feels significant. It's about the executive maybe overstepping using wartime laws in peacetime.
That's a really important legal challenge Green is raising. The Alien Enemies Act inherently bypasses standard due process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his call for Congress to step in highlights this concern that the executive might be, exploiting old laws to grab more power, maybe infringing on rights without the usual checks and balances.
And finally, Melinda Charles up in Connecticut. She raised flags by the administration's clashes with federal courts, with universities even.
Yeah, that pattern.
It's not just about one policy anymore, is it? It feels like a perceived attack on the separation of powers itself. When the executive seems to be fighting both the judiciary and education, it raises some pretty deep questions about the health of the whole democratic system.
Charles's points really speak to that potential pattern of executive overreach, maybe a disregard for those essential checks and balances. Clashing with other branches like that suggests a desire, perhaps, to consolidate power in the executive. And that has huge implications for our constitutional system long term.
So when you step back and look at the sheer scale, the diversity of these protests, and remembering similar things happened just weeks before, it paints a really clear picture, I think. This is intensifying. It's sustained resistance.
Absolutely.
It doesn't feel like just a momentary flash of anger. It seems much deeper and growing.
I agree. The fact that these aren't isolated incidents, that they're part of this ongoing wave across so many places, covering so many grievances, it does suggest a deepening and broadening public discontent. And that level of sustained, visible opposition, it raises big questions about the administration's ability to govern effectively, to keep public trust.
So it leaves us with this question, really. What does it actually say about where we are right now when you see this kind of widespread, diverse, and persistent public outcry? What are the long-term consequences when so many people from so many different places and perspectives feel they absolutely have to take to the streets like this? Something to really think about.
Definitely something to think about.
We'll leave it there for this deep dive. Thanks for tuning in to the Deep Dive Report Show. Please do like, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss our next update.
We'll catch you on the next Breaking News.